This is Mr. Richard, and today we're talking about one of the biggest shifts I've seen in relationship dynamics, what I call the pattern recognition revolution of 2026. For years, the average man, the stable, reliable, emotionally healthy guy who wants real connection, who values peace, who builds consistent relationships, was the perfect target for narcissistic women. He didn't see it coming. He mistook love bombing for genuine interest. He thought her intensity meant passion. He believed her when she said he was different from all the other guys. He accepted chaos as normal. He blamed himself when things went wrong. These men were ideal victims because they had exactly what narcissistic women needed: empathy, stability, resources, patience, the willingness to work on relationships, the tendency to give people second chances. And narcissistic women knew how to spot these qualities and exploit them perfectly. But something has changed completely. The average man is no longer walking into these situations blind. He's been educated. He's seen the patterns. He's talked to other guys who went through the same thing. He's watched the videos, read the articles, recognized the red flags, and now when a narcissistic woman approaches him with her usual playbook, he sees exactly what's happening in real time. And he walks away immediately, permanently. The women who used to trap good men easily are now finding that their best targets have become impossible to catch. And before we get into this, let me tell you why I'm talking about this and why I think it's one of the most important relationship shifts happening right now. Because I've worked with hundreds of men over the past decade. Good guys, stable guys, guys who genuinely wanted healthy relationships. And I watched them get destroyed by narcissistic women. I watched them lose years of their lives, their confidence, their money, sometimes their kids, their homes, their entire sense of reality. I watched them blame themselves for relationships that were designed to fail from the start. And then I started seeing something different around 2023, 2024. The same type of guy, but different response. These men were coming in already knowing the terms. They knew what love bombing was. They knew what hoovering meant. They understood trauma bonding. They could spot future faking from a mile away. And when women showed up with narcissistic patterns, these guys just said no thanks and walked away. No explanation, no trying to fix her, no giving her chances, just immediate exit. And the women, completely confused. Their playbook stopped working. The men they used to control easily were suddenly untouchable. So if you're here expecting me to tell men they're being too harsh, or they need to give troubled women more chances, or that they're missing out on great relationships, you're in the wrong place. This is about understanding why average men have finally learned to recognize narcissistic women, what patterns they're looking for, and why once they see it, they never unsee it. Stay with me. Today we're looking at the pattern recognition revolution, why average men have become impossible targets for narcissistic women, what changed in their awareness, and why these men choose to walk away the second they spot the signs. Defining the average man first. Let's be clear about who we're talking about. The average man in this context isn't defined by income or looks or status. He's defined by his emotional makeup and relationship approach. The average man is emotionally available and wants real connection. He's not playing games, he's not trying to manipulate. He genuinely wants a healthy relationship with mutual respect and real intimacy. He values communication and tries to work through problems instead of running from them. Empathetic and understanding. This is actually what makes him vulnerable. He can put himself in other people's shoes. He gives people the benefit of the doubt. He tries to understand why someone acts the way they do. He's forgiving, sometimes too forgiving. Stable and consistent. He's not all over the place emotionally. He doesn't create drama. He shows up when he says he will. He follows through. His mood doesn't swing wildly. He's predictable in a good way. People can count on him. Conflict averse and peace-seeking. He doesn't like fighting. He'd rather solve problems than escalate them. He values harmony. He'll often compromise to keep the peace. He avoids unnecessary confrontation. This makes him easy to manipulate because he'll accept bad behavior to avoid conflict. Self-reflective and willing to take responsibility. When something goes wrong, he looks at himself first. He asks what he could have done differently. He's willing to admit mistakes. He believes in personal growth. He takes feedback seriously, sometimes too seriously. Resource provider with traditional values. He works hard. He contributes financially. He wants to take care of his partner. He sees providing as part of his role. He's generous with his time, money, attention. He doesn't keep score. This is the average man. And for narcissistic women, yeah, this profile is perfect. It's exactly what they're hunting for. A guy with resources who's empathetic enough to excuse their behavior, stable enough to provide consistent supply, conflict averse enough to not fight back, and self-reflective enough to blame himself when things go wrong. what narcissistic women were targeting. So if average men were perfect targets, what exactly were narcissistic women looking for? What made these guys so valuable? The empathy supply. Narcissistic women need constant emotional reaction. They feed off your feelings. And empathetic men provide high-quality supply because they actually care. They actually feel things deeply. They actually respond with genuine emotion. When she creates drama, he responds with real concern. When she cries, he genuinely wants to help. When she's angry, he actually feels bad. This emotional responsiveness is like fuel to her. The stability and resources. Average men have their lives together. They have jobs, income, homes, cars, savings. They're financially stable. And narcissistic women target this because they need someone to provide for them while they create chaos. They need a stable base to operate from. The average man provides that base. He pays the bills while she does whatever she wants. He maintains the household while she tears it apart emotionally. The patience and forgiveness. Narcissistic women need partners who will tolerate their behavior. And average men have been socialized to be patient, to give second chances, to forgive, to work on relationships. So when she does something terrible, he doesn't leave. He tries to understand. He gives her another chance. He believes her when she says she'll change. This patience allows her to get away with behavior that would get anyone else immediately dumped. The self-blame tendency. This is huge. When narcissistic women mess up, they need someone who will accept blame. And average men are perfect because they're already inclined to look at themselves first when something goes wrong. So she can cheat, lie, abuse, manipulate, and then turn it around and make it his fault. And he'll actually believe it. He'll actually think, maybe I wasn't attentive enough. Maybe I pushed her to this. Maybe I'm the problem. For years, these patterns worked perfectly. Narcissistic women could spot average men easily and trap them quickly. The guys didn't know what was happening until they were already destroyed. Why the awakening is happening. So what changed? Why are average men suddenly impossible to fool? Shift 1, information is everywhere now. 10 years ago, most people didn't know what narcissism really was. Maybe they'd heard the word, but they didn't understand the patterns. Now it's everywhere. YouTube videos breaking down narcissistic behavior. Reddit threads with thousands of men sharing identical stories. Articles listing red flags. Podcasts interviewing therapists. The information is unavoidable. Average men who are even slightly curious about relationship dynamics have been exposed to this content. They've watched a video and thought, wait, that sounds exactly like my ex. The education is happening whether they're looking for it or not. Shift 2. Men are comparing notes. In the past, guys didn't really talk about relationship problems in detail. There was shame around admitting you were manipulated. That's changed. Online communities exist where men anonymously share their experiences, and what they're discovering is shocking. Hundreds of men describing the exact same relationship with the exact same patterns, sometimes using the exact same phrases their partners used. This pattern recognition is powerful. When you realize your unique, crazy relationship is actually a standard playbook being run on thousands of guys, you wake up fast. Shift 3, the consequences became undeniable. Enough men have now been through the full cycle. Meet a woman, get love bombed, get committed, experience the devaluation, get discarded or escape, spend years recovering, and they're talking about the damage. Lost savings, lost years, lost confidence, lost custody of kids, false accusations, destroyed reputations. Other men are seeing these consequences and thinking, I'm not risking that. No relationship is worth potentially losing everything I've built. The cost-benefit calculation has shifted because the costs are now fully visible and they're terrifying. Why average men are walking away immediately. So average men are now educated about narcissistic patterns. They know what to look for, they understand the tactics, and when they spot these signs, they don't try to fix the woman, they don't give chances, they don't hope things will get better, they just leave. Why? Reason 1, they recognize the love bombing immediately. In the past, when a beautiful woman showed intense interest right away, the average guy thought, wow, I must be special. Now he thinks, this is a red flag. Oh, why is she moving this fast? He knows that real attraction builds over time. He knows that healthy people don't declare you're their soulmate after 2 weeks. He knows that intensity at the beginning means chaos later. So when she starts with the excessive compliments, the constant texting, the immediate future planning, he doesn't feel flattered. He feels suspicious. And he ends it right there before getting attached. Reason 2, they've learned the patterns never change. This is huge. Average men used to believe that if they just loved her enough, if they were patient enough, she would change. Now they know better. They've read enough stories, heard enough testimonies, and the message is always the same. She doesn't change. The pattern might pause temporarily, but it always comes back. The love bombing turns to devaluation. The devaluation leads to discard. The discard leads to hoovering. Then the cycle repeats. And it doesn't matter how good you are to her. The pattern is the pattern. So when guys recognize they're dealing with a narcissistic woman, they don't waste time trying to save her. They just get out. Reason 3, they've heard the horror stories. Every guy now knows someone who got destroyed by a narcissistic woman, the guy who lost his house because she convinced the court he was abusive when he wasn't. The guy who hasn't seen his kids in 3 years because she turned them against him. The guy who spent $50,000 on legal fees defending himself against false accusations. These stories are everywhere now, and average men are looking at these outcomes and thinking, that could be me if I stay. The risk is too high. Walk away now while you still can. Reason 4, they value their peace too much. Many average men, especially those over 35, have finally achieved some peace in their lives. Their careers are stable, their finances are in order, their living situation is comfortable. They have routines they enjoy, hobbies they love, friendships that work. Life is finally calm. And they've learned that peace is valuable, more valuable than passion, more valuable than excitement, more valuable than the validation of having a beautiful girlfriend. They know that getting involved with a narcissistic woman means trading all that peace for constant chaos, drama, fights, confusion, walking on eggshells, emotional manipulation, financial stress. They look at that trade and think, absolutely not. My peace is worth more than any relationship, especially one that's guaranteed to be hell. Reason 5, they refuse to be supply anymore. Once you learn what narcissistic supply is, once you understand that you're not a partner but a resource to be used, everything changes. You realize she doesn't love you. She loves what you provide. Your attention, your emotional reactions, your resources, your stability. You're not a person to her. You're a function. And average men, once they understand this, refuse to participate. They're not going to spend their lives being drained so someone else can feel good. They have enough self-respect now to say no to that role entirely. Reason 6, they finally value themselves. This is the deepest shift. For years, average men were taught their value came from being useful, from serving, from sacrificing, from tolerating. Their own needs didn't matter much, but the conversation has shifted. Men are being told, your peace matters, your mental health matters, your boundaries matter. You deserve respect. You deserve a partner who actually values you. And average men are internalizing this message. They're recognizing, I don't have to accept bad treatment. I don't have to fix broken people. I can choose relationships that actually serve me, or I can choose no relationship at all. And both options are better than staying with someone who's destroying me. What narcissistic women are experiencing. So what does this look like from the narcissistic woman's perspective? What's happening as her usual tactics stop working? Experience 1, confusion when love bombing fails. She approaches an average guy with her standard playbook. Intense interest, constant attention, excessive compliments, future planning. And instead of getting hooked like guys used to, he pulls back. He gets distant. He starts asking questions. Why are you moving so fast? This feels rushed. Or worse, he just ghosts, disappears completely. She's confused because this used to work every single time. Guys, now it's having the opposite effect. It's scaring them away. And experience 2, inability to create the trauma bond. The trauma bond used to be easy to create. Love bomb him until he's addicted, then devalue him until he's desperate to get the high back, then give him just enough to keep him hooked. But now guys are recognizing this cycle. After the first evaluation, instead of trying harder to please her, they're thinking, wait, she was perfect 2 weeks ago, and now she's treating me like garbage. This is that pattern I read about, and they leave, just like that. She can't create the bond because guys are leaving before it forms. Experience 3, losing high-quality targets. The average men who are now walking away, these were her best options. Stable guys with resources and empathy and patience, guys who would have tolerated her behavior for years while providing everything she needed. Those guys are now untouchable. So she's left with options that are lower quality. Guys who are more damaged themselves, guys who are easier to fool because they're less educated, guys who have less to offer. She's not able to lock down the stable, successful, kind guys anymore. They see her coming from a mile away. Experience 4, permanent exits instead of cycling. The narcissistic relationship used to work in cycles. She'd discard him, he'd be devastated, she'd hoover him back, he'd return, things would be good briefly, then she'd devalue him again. She could keep a guy in this cycle for years. Now, when guys leave or get discarded, they don't come back. They block her everywhere. They don't respond to hoovering attempts. They don't want closure. They're just gone permanently. This breaks her system because she counted on being able to bring guys back whenever she needed supply. The pattern recognition revolution. What we're watching is a complete shift in awareness. For the first time, average men have access to detailed information about narcissistic behavior patterns before they get trapped. Reality 1, the tactics only work on unaware targets. Love bombing, gaslighting, future faking, hoovering, trauma bonding, all of these tactics require that the victim doesn't know what's happening. Once you know these are tactics, once you can name them as they're happening, they lose all power. Narcissistic women haven't developed new tactics. They're still running the same playbook, but the playbook only works on guys who don't know it exists. And that pool of guys is shrinking rapidly. Reality 2, educated men are comparing notes publicly. The internet has created something narcissistic women never had to deal with before. A massive database of their victims comparing experiences and recognizing patterns, thousands of men describing identical relationships, same love bombing phase, same sudden devaluation, same crazy making arguments, same hoovering attempts, same everything. This public pattern recognition means new victims can search their experiences and immediately find validation that what's happening to them has happened to countless others, and they can see how it ends if they stay. Reality 3, young men are entering relationships already educated. Men in their 20s now have grown up watching this content. They've been learning about narcissism since their teenage years. They're entering their first serious relationships already knowing what to look for. This means narcissistic women are facing targets who were never naive to begin with. They can't trap young guys anymore because young guys already know the game. The next generation of men is going to be even harder to fool than the current one. What this means for average men. So what should average men understand about this shift? Understanding 1, trust your gut when something feels off. If a woman is moving too fast, if the intensity feels uncomfortable, if something doesn't add up, trust that feeling. Don't ignore it because she's attractive or because you don't want to seem paranoid. Your gut is picking up on real signals. When something feels wrong, it usually is wrong. Don't talk yourself out of your instincts. Understanding 2, you're not required to give chances. You don't owe anyone the opportunity to prove you wrong about your concerns. If you see red flags early, you can just walk away. You don't need to gather more evidence. You don't need to be fair. You don't need to see if it gets better. Protecting yourself is more important than giving someone the benefit of the doubt. The cost of being wrong and staying is massive. The cost of being wrong and leaving is minimal. Understanding 3, study the patterns before you need them. Even if you're not dating right now, learn about narcissistic behavior patterns. Watch videos, read articles, understand the tactics, because when you do meet someone, you'll recognize the signs immediately instead of figuring it out after you're already attached. Most guys learn about narcissism after they've been destroyed by a narcissistic woman. Be the guy who learns before it happens to you. Understanding 4, exit immediately when you see the pattern. Don't try to fix her. Don't hope she'll change. Don't give one more chance. When you recognize you're dealing with narcissistic patterns, leave immediately and go no contact. Block her everywhere. Don't respond to messages. Don't try to explain. Don't look for closure. Just disappear from her life completely. It feels harsh, but it's the only way to protect yourself. Any contact gives her opportunity to manipulate you back in. Understanding 5, your peace is more valuable than any relationship. If you've got calm in your life right now, protect it like your life depends, because it does. That peace you feel when you wake up without drama, without walking on eggshells, without someone messing with your head, that's worth more than companionship with someone who'll destroy it. Don't trade peace for chaos just because you're lonely or because she's attractive. Peace is rare. Once you lose it, getting it back takes years. What this means for women. And for women who might be recognizing narcissistic patterns in themselves, or for those who wonder why good men are walking away so quickly now. Understanding 1, he knows more than you think. When you use standard manipulation tactics, there's a good chance he recognizes exactly what you're doing. He's seen the videos, he's read the articles, he knows what love bombing looks like, he knows what gaslighting is. You're not getting away with anything. You're just showing him who you are so he can leave before getting attached. Understanding 2, his friends are watching and warning him. You might think you've charmed him completely, but his friends are watching how you treat him. And if they see red flags, they're warning him now. Guys are listening to their friends more than they used to because they've heard too many stories about men who ignored warnings and regretted it. You can't isolate him from his support system as easily anymore because he knows isolation is a tactic. Understanding 3, quick exits are the new normal. When a guy recognizes narcissistic patterns, he doesn't owe you an explanation or a chance to defend yourself. He's going to ghost, block, and disappear. This isn't rude, this is self-protection. Because guys have learned that trying to break up with a narcissistic woman creates drama, manipulation, threats, fake emergencies, anything to keep him engaged, so they've learned to just vanish without warning. Understanding 4, the pool of available victims is shrinking. The stable, empathetic, successful men you target are getting educated faster than you can adapt. Each year, more men become impossible to trap. The guys who would have been perfect supply 10 years ago are now walking away at the first red flag. You're being left with men who are either equally toxic, too damaged to recognize patterns, or too young to know better yet. But even the young ones are learning earlier now. Final thoughts. Let me tell you why I'm sharing this, even though it'll probably be called making all women seem like narcissists, because it's not. It's describing a real shift in male awareness that's protecting good men from terrible relationships. A shift where guys who used to blame themselves for relationship chaos are now recognizing the chaos wasn't their fault. They were dealing with people who were never going to change no matter what they did. This isn't about hating women. Most women aren't narcissistic. This is about helping the average man recognize the ones who are so he doesn't waste years of his life being destroyed by someone who sees him as a resource instead of a person. And I've watched this shift save men from disasters. Guys who spotted the love bombing early and walked away instead of ending up in 5-year nightmare relations. Guys who recognized gaslighting in month 2 and left instead of losing their sanity by year 3. This channel exists because I want men to protect themselves before they need years of therapy to recover. For average men, you're not paranoid for being cautious. You're not bitter for having standards. You're not cruel for walking away when you see red flags. You're smart. You're protecting yourself. You're valuing your peace over temporary validation. The patterns are real. The tactics are documented. The outcomes are predictable. Trust what you've learned. Trust what you observe. And don't ignore warning signs just because she's attractive or because you're lonely. For women, if you're genuinely not narcissistic, none of this threatens you. Healthy women don't get upset when men have boundaries or standards or pattern recognition. Only toxic women get angry when men protect themselves. If guys are walking away from you quickly and repeatedly, maybe look at why instead of blaming them for being damaged or paranoid. Drop a comment about your experience. Average men, have you walked away from someone after recognizing the patterns? Did it save you from a disaster? Share what you saw that made you leave. Subscribe for more honest talk about relationship dynamics that nobody else wants to discuss. Because this channel will never tell average men to ignore red flags or give toxic people chances or sacrifice their peace for relationships that will destroy them. The pattern recognition revolution is here. Average men are educated, and they're choosing protection over hope. They're choosing peace over chaos. They're choosing themselves over people who would use them.